Boys and gents, home CG reaction. This is when did Britain and America stop hating each other? They did. All right. This particular history matters. Yeah, if one can basically accumulate any small knowledge here and there that I've seen so far with different videos, I guess it was not that long after, right, when they kicked out the British, basically. Because even though that you think that is like a big issue all around, but let's be honest, the issue there was that Britain and USA basically had a lot of economical ties, right? They relied on each other somewhat, right? We know that during the Civil War, right, how Britain was one of the key players, which was like, should I side with the North or the South? Well, because as soon as the British got kicked out, it became a real strong ties of even the point where the Civil War was going on. So Britain and USA always had the strong ties when it comes to business, economy. So, and also let's be honest, there were more British people in the United States at the time than anything else, right? I mean, basically they spoke the same language and they were kind of the same, right? So I don't know. I think that it must have been pretty soon, right? Probably a decade at best. I don't know. It's going to be surprising to see how much gap there was. But if I were to say like a decade or something, because it all started with the taxes, right? You're taxing us, sure, but you're not giving us any representation. That was the issue. That's what sparked everything. That's what sparked the revolution in a way, right? So I guess there was no personal, friction, right? Like we hate the British, get out. No, it's just like you're taxing us, but not giving us a representation. I guess that should fade away pretty fast, but I don't know. Let's watch it. Remember, we'll flag my Nixon. Don't forget to subscribe. So I know which type of videos to react to more. I'm starting to react to more and more history videos. So if you haven't subscribed, definitely subscribe. I'll be posting a lot of history videos going forward. And yeah, let's watch it.
It would be an understatement to say that Britain and the USA's relationship got off to a rocky start. In 1812, Britain and America were at war, but just over a century later, they were fighting shoulder to shoulder in World War I, which obviously raises the question.
I like how Trump basically called Trudeau and said, like, didn't you people bomb the White House? Like, what the fuck?
When did Britain and America become allies? There had to be a point where both went from actively disliking each other to working alongside each other. Now, before continuing, it's important to note that even in the immediate aftermath of independence, America and Britain still had strong economic ties. This isn't to say that things were always great between the two, and there were some pretty major conflicts of interest in the years after the War of 1812 finished. The first, and perhaps the most obvious, was the Monroe Doctrine, established in 1823. This was where the United States, by threat of military intervention, declared an end to any new European colonial adventures in the Americas. And for Britain, this was potentially a problem because it had economic interests in South America. In reality, though, it wasn't too much of a problem at all, because in 1833 it landed a force on the Falkland Islands and America did nothing. In 1842, the US...
America did nothing. Yeah. Monroe Doctrine. Basically, US is like, we are strong enough and economically powerful enough to say, fuck you, don't ever come to America. It's enough of your colonizing bullshit. That ends now. But yeah, obviously, they made exceptions, right? That should be the slogan.
Did warn Britain against interference in Hawaii, which Britain did heed because America's international power was certainly growing. And it was this fact that America was a rapidly growing great power whose interests could no longer be ignored, which would dominate Anglo-American relations for the following century. So the next major event which could have changed the Anglo-American dynamic was the American Civil War, which broke out in 1861. Britain had already abolished slavery at this point, and so you would think that it would have preferred the Union over the Confederacy. But you'd be wrong. Now, Britain had no great affection for the Confederacy in its slaveholding practices. Its preferential treatment was purely economic, mostly due to cotton imports. Britain did consider formally recognising the Confederacy, and Anglo-American relations were severely harmed by what's called the Trent Affair. This was where the US government seized a ship with Confederate diplomats headed for Britain, which to Britain looked like the USA telling it who it could and could not speak to. In the end, cooler heads prevailed and Britain didn't get involved, although it did construct a very powerful warship, the CSS Alabama, for the Confederacy. And after the Civil War was over, Britain paid compensation to the United States. Thus, only 50 years away from World War I, Britain and America...
Yeah, imagine if Britain said, fuck it, we're just going to involve point blank and we're going to go with the South. How the different history would have been. What would have think of Lincoln at this point, right? Because Lincoln wouldn't have been successful if that would have happened, right? I mean, outside power joining in, that would have been a problem. I don't know. Maybe Lincoln would have gone to other European powers to, I guess, level the playing field. I don't know. But yeah, definitely would have been different history.
America still didn't really care much for each other. So what changed this? Well, relations actually started to improve during Britain's border dispute with Venezuela in 1895. This developed into somewhat of a crisis, and the US intervened and arbitrated, siding mostly with Britain. For Britain, America had conducted itself in a well-mannered fashion and given Britain most of what it had wanted. And for America, by accepting American arbitration, Britain had yielded its right to influence South America. The other reason for Anglo-American rapprochement was simple: converging interests. America had emerged from its civil war a more centralised industrial power, and after its defeat of Spain in 1898, it possessed a global empire too. And for Britain, things were rapidly changing as well. Its empire and global position was being threatened by Russia and the newly formed Germany. Britain had long practiced a policy of isolationism with respect to the European powers, but since they too were industrialising, this had the potential to threaten Britain's position. Thus, her most natural ally seemed to be the United States, since it was half a world away and had its own sphere of influence, plus they spoke the same language and shared many values. It was at the turn of the 20th century under President Theodore Roosevelt that America and Britain really started to become friends, particularly with...
Yeah, we both have the same language. Americans like, howdy. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Man, alright, I was kind of right? Their trading thing was still going as soon as the British got kicked out because they still have economical ties. But it took good enough. Basically, it's like one of those movie scenes, right? Two people fight each other even though they're family, right? They just don't speak that much, but they still basically do some trading here and there, whatever. Then something happens like, yeah, man, you're all right.
Respect to one foreign policy stance. They didn't like Germany. This agreement allowed for Britain to move its fleet away from its Caribbean colonies back to Britain to defend itself from Germany, while security in the Caribbean would fall to the US. After the First World War broke out, Germany's actions, such as U-boat attacks on American shipping and the Zimmermann telegram, combined with the fact that if Britain and France lost the war, they wouldn't be able to pay their American loans back, assured US intervention on their side. And from that point onwards, both the US and UK were largely in the same camps, barring a couple of mishaps here and there. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for watching, with extra thanks to these patrons you can see on screen for their continued support. And an extra...
Yeah, if they lost the war, they couldn't pay back the money, and Americans like, what? Yeah, by the way, they also sank our ship with our civilians in it. Yeah, that's it, let's go. Let's join World War I. Yeah. So hatred of Germany also played a part, I guess. Man, this is so good, right? I mean, there was a video with real life lore, like how USS geography is really strong for them, right? At one side it's Mexico, other side it's Canada, and then it's just sea, basically. Basically they're in a place that they are very secure, and you could see that during the World War times, right? World War I breaks out, now every European country, every power basically somewhat sweats, like this is gonna catch up to us soon. While Americans like, we are entire sea away, right? We are in our own different place, we don't have to worry about nothing. And basically that's how they didn't got hurt that much with most of the war, and they got more economical edge than anybody else because Europe destroyed itself eventually. Europe basically destroyed itself. Like USA was just there, and USA already had means and tools to provide the economical things around the world, economical tools, and now they just have the monopoly, right? That's how it became the power that we know today. Yeah. Well, that was When Did Britain and America Stop Hating Each Other by the channel History Matters. If you like American, don't forget to subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you next time.